Shalom, shalom, shalom. Giving honor unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This particular video presentation, brothers and sisters, is not going to be long, but what we want to do for edification purposes, brothers and sisters, is in going live. Thank you for the time. Thank you for your attention to this particular matter that we will be discussing. The matter, brothers and sisters, of El, Al, Eloha, Elohim, Alahayam, and so forth. All right. Now, what we want to point out, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes, if we will, right, is this. When dealing with the language, brothers and sisters, has structure, if we will. Brothers and sisters, language, we want to point out, brothers and sisters, derives in many cases one from another. Now, when we're speaking in regards, brothers and sisters, about the Israelites, if we will, right? They descend from the people of the Chaldeans, as pointed out in the Bible in the book of Ezekiel, the 23rd chapter. All right. So now, from that particular aspect, if we will, brothers and sisters, let us get into this particular matter. Now, the reason why that this is presented is because somebody, I really don't know who, and this is not to slander anyone, somebody has stated that Elohim is Yiddish. And we wanted to point out, brothers and sisters, that Elohim is not Yiddish. All right, so, brothers and sisters, let us look at this real quick. All right? We have here the Aleph, right? And we have the Lamed. Now, Aleph makes no sound of its own particular aspect. Lamed makes the El sound. Now, in Paleo, which, mind you, the word Paleo is simply the Greek word for ancient, right? In Paleo Hebrew, it'll be written as such. You will have this, all right, along with that. So that's something we just want to point out for edification purposes. Now, brothers and sisters, I made a printout of some scriptures for reasoning purposes and understanding. And I would like to show and go over, in part, this particular matter, if we will. All right? Let us look. This is coming from the Bible in Genesis chapter 14. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was priest of God the Most High. Okay? So now, in the Hebrew, we see this as follows. Ulmalki Zedek, Melech Shalem, Hosi Lechem, Wayayin, Wehu Kohen, La'el Elyon. Now, brothers and sisters, Elyon in Hebrew we see here, this the ayin, not the aleph, the lamed, the yod, the waw, and the noon, or the noon sophie. That comes from the Hebrew word Allah, which means in verb to go up or to ascend. Okay, so we want to point that out for edification purposes. Elyon means the highest, said commonly as the Most High in translation, if we will. This what we see here, la'el. This lamed means two or four. El meaning power, translated in many cases as God. Now, what do we want to point out, brothers and sisters, having have read Genesis chapter 14, right, is this. When we see the Aleph in the Lamed, 9 times out of 10 in the Hebrew, even without the nekudot or the pointed system or the vowels that's pointed in, is going to be El. El means God or power. Okay? Now, we've been pointing out online too, brothers and sisters, that this word, and I'm going to rewrite it. Okay, this here, you have the Aleph and the Lamed, and then you have the Aleph and the Lamed here again. Now, if we were to put vowels in, right, mind you, a vowel is simply a sound that's written. All right, so we could gain some understanding purposes, right? We have this L, translated as power, might, or God. Then we have here Al. Now, we already showed, brothers and sisters, in the Bible, in Genesis chapter 14, where this is used. All right? El meaning God or power. Now, brothers and sisters, we want to show where the other one is shown in the scriptures for edification purposes. All right? This is coming from the Bible in Leviticus chapter 19. In verse 29, it says this: profane not thy daughter to make her a harlot, lest the land fall into harlotry, and the land become full of lewdness. Brothers and sisters, what we just read is coming from Leviticus 19, verse 29. And we want to show, as we did earlier, the Hebrew of what we're talking about. This says Al, bold types here, you see here, the Aleph, the Lamed, and here we see the Lamed. Al tekalel et bika, profane not, specifically your daughter. Lahaznota, to cause her to be a whore. Walo zane ha aretz. U mal a ha aretz zima. Now, we want to focus nonetheless on this word here, al. Now, this right here means do not. It doesn't imply you will not. Now, let me point out what I'm speaking of. This word here, tekalel, that tau serves as a prefix. Ket, lamed, and lamed, kilel. Kilel in Hebrew means, brothers and sisters, to profane. All right? So we want to point that out. Tekalel means you will profane. Lo tekalel means you will not profane. So now when we see al tekalel, that means do not profane. That's not telling you the future tense case in that particular aspect. This al makes this future tense word more so a direct do not. So that's what we want to point out. So we have shown El, brothers and sisters, in Genesis 14, and shown Al, brothers and sisters, in the book of Leviticus chapter 19. Now, if Hebrew had no vowels, and we wanted to point out again that a vowel, brothers and sisters, is simply a sound that is written. If Hebrew did not have that, brothers and sisters, there will be no distinction between saying El, meaning power or God, and Al, meaning do not. Now, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes, if you will, I want to emphasize this aspect as well. We have here the letter Ayin and the letter Lamed. All right? Now, this Al, right, means on or about or concerning. This is why, brothers and sisters, many are beginning to say in Israel that this letter here, the Ayin, is not as mute as many brothers and sisters have taught, but actually has a softer G-like sound. All right? But that's another subject. Nonetheless, for edification purposes, we wanted to point out what we're talking about for edification purposes. All right? Now, brothers and sisters, you see in your own time, all right, the word El regarding the Most High. All right? You see that in Genesis 14, Numbers 16, and Deuteronomy 3. There are many other places where it is, but we just want to go over 2 or 3 witnesses establishing the matter. Specifically, Genesis chapter 14, verse 18, Numbers 16, verse 22, Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 24. So, brothers and sisters, we want to show that for reason and purposes, if we will. All right? We're going to, all right, with the time allotted, All right. I decided to try to do something different and use this kind of paper. All right. To avoid having to do the erasing and then going back, we'll just go from sheet to sheet. All right. So now let us look, if we will, brothers and sisters, at this here. You have, all right, the word Elah, meaning God, if we will. I want to explain what we're dealing with in that particular case. All right. Let us write this out here. You have here Elah, right? Now, if you want to write it as they would say in Paleo, it will be as so. Nonetheless, brothers and sisters, when people say Hebrew has no vowels, that is looking at Hebrew, be it with the ancient or the Aramaic writing of it. I'm going to explain that while I say Aramaic in a second, right? That is thinking with an English mind. What they refer to as Shemitic, incorrectly said as Semitic languages, does not have in its ancient form a written vowel point system. Not everyone in the ancient days knew how to read, but everybody knew how to speak who was able to speak, who was not, heaven forbid, mute. All right. So this is something we want to point out for reason and purposes. As been pointed out on this channel, we have emphasized the aspect, brothers and sisters, of the vowel making sound. What happens if you're saying there are no vowels? This right here, all right, I want to circle this. Be it you say aspect of a quamat or a patak, either one, I'm just circling them. That's making the ah sound. Ah, whether you say it as A or whether you say it as AH, brothers and sisters, it's still a sound. Ah is a short vowel sound for A. So we can't say Hebrew has no vowels and then say something to the effect of Ata, Barata, Yashara Allah. You can't sit there and say that and then say Hebrew has no vowels, because whether you write it in the Paleo ancient aspect with there was no pointed vowel system in it, ah is still a vowel. It is still a sound. All right. So these are things, brothers and sisters, that we want to point out for edification purposes. Now, Elah, all right, you might see it as, if you were to, all right, I'm going to just flip this over, all right, real quick, and come back to it, all right? If you were to write it as, say, Eloha, you see that a lot, meaning God, in the book of Job. So whether you say El, or whether you say Eloha, or whether you say Elah, as in reference to the Most High, the Creator, you will see that in the scriptures. One, in Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 11, as well as in the book of Ezra chapter 6. So these are things we want to just go over and show for edification purposes. All right. Now, brothers and sisters, if we will, looking back, thank you for the timing. All right. At this here, Elah, we don't want to confuse it with this word here. Ele. Ele means these. All right. Elah, as you would see sometimes, like in the book of Ezra or Daniel, right? That is in reference with the Most High. All right. You write it here in the Paleo aspect. And I want to keep emphasizing, I say Paleo, meaning Israelites say that term. It's simply the Greek word meaning ancient. So you say Paleo or ancient or Paleo, it's the same word, one in English, one in Greek. Okay. So we want to point that out for a reason and purposes in that particular aspect. Now, brothers and sisters, this is no disrespect intended. many Israelites use the Strong's Concordance with its dictionary, meaning H2394 for whatever reason, right? Hebrew or H inside of the Strong's Concordance does not support the Hebrew referred to by many Israelites as Lashon Kodash. There is not, correct me if I'm wrong, brothers and sisters, right? A Hebrew concordance that would tell you everything is sounding as ah, ba, ga, da, ha, shalawam, yasha Allah, Yahweh daha, and so forth and so on. You have people citing the Blue Bridge Browns and so forth concordance. That concordance gets into the aspect of the qual stem, the nephal stem, the hephil stem. When you see things in those kind of concordances, such as this here, QAL, NIF, HIF, HIT, PAEL. That is what Israelites sometimes want to refer to as Yiddish, but it's not Yiddish. All right. This stands for the qual, the nephal, the hit, the hephil. This is supposed to be the F, sorry. The hephil and the hepael. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but the Hebrew referred to by many brothers and sisters as, say, the Lashon Kodash is not supported in the Strong's Concordance that many Israelites who say Hebrew has no vowels should go to. A lot of times in discussing this, you'll find Israelites telling one another things such as, that's not what the concordance says, but the concordance you're talking about does not uphold the Hebrew that many people refer to as Lashon Kodash. All right, so we just want to go over that for edification purposes, if we will. Now, Hebrew and Yiddish, we've been pointing this out on the channel, right? They are written in the same characters, but that does not make it the same language. If I write, brothers and sisters, all right, for edification purposes, this here, A, B, that's Ab. That means father in Hebrew, but it's not Hebrew writing. You understand? So we want to point that out for reason and purposes. When you read about the aspect of Zafnat Paneah, that is what you refer to, the name given to Joseph is a transliteration from the Egyptian aspect. You find, brothers and sisters, the aspect of Nebu'u Azur, which is transliterated in the Bible as Nebuchadnezzar. So there is, brothers and sisters, the Israelites, even in the Tanakh, that use what is referred to as transliteration. Let me give an example of such. We have here, if we will, right? Let me look at one for instance. Right? Abiram. Now, Ab means father. Abi means my father or father of. Abiram, right? That means my father is exalted. Ram means exalted, all right, or to be high. So my father is high, all right, or my father is exalted. That's what that means in that particular case, okay? So now, looking at that, for instance, you would have it spelled as Abiram, Abiram or Abiram. But brothers and sisters, this is written in English letters, but it's not an English word. Ab is written in here as in English letters, but it's not an English word. Abiram means my father is exalted. But this doesn't say my father is exalted. This is Abiram. But if we don't understand that Ab and Abi and Ram and how two brothers and sisters use the understanding of the language to gain the meaning of it, then we done missed the point. That's why we want to go over this particular aspect, if we will. Okay, so for those who can hear me, please give me a 1. All right, if I can be heard. Because I'm able to see the comments if there be any comments, questions or so regarding this particular matter. As stated, this is no disrespect intended to any brother or sister or anything of that sort. But we want to show what we're talking about for edification purposes. All right. Let us continue on, brothers and sisters. As stated, this is not a long presentation, but it is a necessary one. I want to take an intermission. What I mean by that is to give a shout out to the sister who made, sorry about that, the flyer here. This was made by Fab Aim, a very good friend of mine from online. All right. So if I can be heard, please give me a 1 inside of the chat. Okay. So, brothers and sisters, let us continue on in what we're talking about for edification purposes. We explained that the book of Daniel and Ezra, right, has God written as so, as Elah. All right. Now, whether we say El, as we see in Deuteronomy, right? Either one of these comes from the root word ayil. All right. And the word ayil means to be mighty. You see that in Deuteronomy 28, verse 32, when it says about the might or the power in your hand. All right. So we want to point that out for reason and purposes. Okay. You have El, Elah from the root word ayil. This is the verb meaning to be mighty. Now, brothers and sisters, the Israelites who say Hebrew has no vowels would say that when we're saying Elah, as in the book of Ezra, chapter 6, should be as so. And they would say, even without putting vowels in, as Allah. Brothers and sisters, we want to point out, as we did, showing that Al means do not, from the book of Leviticus, we showed that. We want to show what the Hebrew thought is, dealing in biblical Hebrew, the oldest Hebrew we know, what this word here would mean, because it's not anything to do in that particular case of the Most High in respect, if you will. What do we mean by that? Brothers and sisters, right? This said as Allah in Hebrew doesn't mean with the ayin in the beginning as if to ascend or to go up. But this Allah here means curse. C-U-R-S-E. This here means curse. So let us show what we're talking about scripturally for edification purposes, if we will. All right. We want to, brothers and sisters, get into this particular aspect. Right? This is from the book, if we will, of Numbers chapter 5. And it says this. All right? Then the priest shall cause the woman to swear with the oath of cursing. And the priest shall say unto the woman, the Most High, make thee a curse and an oath among thy people. When the Most High doth make thy thigh to fall away and thy belly to swell. Now, this particular sad situation is talking about if a husband thinks his wife is unfaithful and the procedure that's done with the priest. The Hebrew, all right, gets into this particular aspect here. And we want to show what we're talking about. All right? Wehish bi'ah ha-kohen et isha bish bu'ata ha-alah wa amar ha-kohen la isha yitain yod-he-wah-he. And then we're going to flip the page. All right? Otak la Allah walish bu'ah batok amek batate yod-he-wah-he et yerekek no felet we et Beatnik. Zabah. So, what are we pointing out, brothers and sisters? This word here is shown bold types. This Aleph, the Lamed, and the Hey, right? That is the word meaning curse. And brothers and sisters, if we remember, it was the same word, all right, here. Ha'Alah, the curse. So when we read here, the oath of cursing, and the priest shall say unto the woman, the Most High make thee a curse. So we have the Allah that we shown on the other sheet, bold type, and right here the same thing, and it means curse, brothers and sisters. This what we just read, brothers and sisters, comes out of the Bible in the book of Numbers, chapter 5, namely verse 21. Brothers and sisters, when we talk about studying to show yourself approved and getting your points together and so forth and so on, this is what we're talking about. All right. Now, I thank the Most High. Am open to constructive criticism. If I stand to be corrected, as has happened in the past, so be it. You understand? I remember a particular case, not tooting one's own horn. I had offended a brother on YouTube and disrespected, and because I did it online, I had to apologize online. That's what you call a just weight and balance. Righteousness trumps knowledge. So you can drop all the verbs and vowels and past tense, future tense, and the while consecutive. If your deeds are wicked, your knowledge cannot override righteousness. What you know and study does not override the law of Yah. We want to point that out. We don't want to be, brothers and sisters, like the woman who knew she would have been guilty in Numbers chapter 5 and still drank that. We don't want to be the man in Deuteronomy chapter 29 that says in his heart, oh, I know the curse is there, but I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing regardless. That's not the way we want to operate as brothers and sisters. All right. So continuing on, as stated, not going to be long in this presentation, right? We want to expound upon two other matters and then close out. All right. And show, pardon that, and show what we're talking about, okay, for reasoning purposes. All right. Now, let us continue on. This word here, we expounded upon this before inside of one of the playlists called 1 Kings 18, but we want to do it again. All right. Elohim. Now, many say that Elohim is plural. Many say that Elohim is not Hebrew. Many say that Elohim is idols. Many say that the true pronunciation of that would be Alahayam. So let's show what that would be in Hebrew if we were to use the scriptural aspects. If we put the same wording, right? That is the same exact word without the written nekudo or vowels. Braille brothers and sisters who are saying in Israel that Elohim is not it and is really said as Alahayam. And then we'll say also that Yam is the pluralization in that particular aspect. Brothers and sisters, such is not the case. For those in the language, Yam, we know here, means what? Sea, like the ocean, like the water. You see that, brothers and sisters, in Genesis chapter 9, verse 2, about the sea. The word Yam is there. So, brothers and sisters, Yam does not serve as a suffix in Hebrew for the pluralization of a word. We want to point that out. All right. So, as pointed out, Yam means sea, and you see that in Genesis chapter 9, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes. Now, if we will, right? Elohim. We already explained that El We explained that Elah, and we explained that Eloha is an appellation of the Most High. Now, in most cases in Hebrew, when you have what the brothers and sisters who deal in parsing in Hebrew will say Kiddik Yod Men. Kiddik Yod Men. That is one of the statements made by the brothers and sisters in Israel who love to, and it's not bad, you understand, to parse the Hebrew aspect. But brothers and sisters, let us go into another sheet. All right, I'm going to keep it there and show a particular matter of such. Now this right here is not the ancient Hebrew tau for what I'm talking about, right? I'm just using that X there as for any letter. Now this kirik, making the E sound, right? Plural, masculine, M-A-S. Then we have here, ot, plural, feminine. Now that is over 90% of the time. But did you know, brothers and sisters, that you got feminine words that have the plural in the eem? For instance, all right, we want to show this for edification purposes. You have the word, all right, I'm just going to show a word. Look at this word here. Beitzah means egg, like the chicken egg or so. But beitzim, right, is the plural. It's not beitzot. Beitzah, even though you got the quamat followed by the a, normally that is feminine, and it is, but its plural is treated in the masculine. Beitzah meaning egg, the plural of it is beitzim. So that is what they refer to as an irregularity. Now, when we're dealing, brothers and sisters, all right, with the aspect here, say, of "in," that's not always plural. There is cases in Hebrew where that too is treated as we would say, irregularity. We want to go over, brothers and sisters, what we're talking about and show what we mean by so. Let's look at this word here, all right? We have this. All right. Now, you can write it in paleo if you want. Right? Betulim. Do you know what this word betulim means? It's in Deuteronomy chapter 22, by the way. All right? For those who can hear me, please give me a 1. Thank you. Shalom to the people in the room, Yah lives, and soldiers of Zion. All right. Now, betulim means virginity. So let's look. All right. And we're just going to write it in the regular block form you would say of Hebrew. Betula, right? Then we have, that's just an arrow, right? You have this here. Betulot. You see betulot meaning virgins. So what are we saying? Betulim, shown in the book of Deuteronomy, right, means virginity. Then we have it written in the paleo, if you will. Betula means virgin. Betulot means virgins. All right. So here we have virgins. And here we have virgin. So that being the case, we know, no disrespect intended, in Israelite culture, a man, when he is with the woman, he does not lose his virginity. Only a woman holds a virginity in Hebraic thought. You understand? That's why it talks about the aspect of the tokens of virginity, which is a whole other subject about the hymen and so forth and so on. But we want to get back into this. Virgin is betula. Betulot is virgins. All right. This is an R. Sorry. Betulim, shown in Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 17, means virginity or tokens of virginity. So we're going to keep that there and show other cases where im is there, but it's not plural. That's one case for edification purposes, if we will. Let us show, if we will, another aspect. All right? This word here, abadim. Abed means slave or servant. Abadim means servants or slaves. But this is the same word shown in Exodus chapter 13 and Exodus chapter 20, meaning what? Bondage. Abadim means bondage. So can we say, brothers and sisters, that Betulim, meaning virginity, and Abadim, meaning bondage, they're all ending in Kidik Yod Mem, right? But we can see where it's not even treated as plural, but treated as immense. The immensity of the word you're talking about. The immensity of a virgin is her virginity. The immensity of a servant is bondage. You understand? So these are things we want to emphasize for edification purposes, right? Abadim, meaning bondage. We see this as stated in Exodus. We're going to let the book speak, brothers and sisters. Glory to the Most High. You see this in the book of Exodus chapter 13 and in the book of Exodus chapter 20. So we can gain understanding of what we're talking about for reasoning purposes. Now, let us show another example, brothers and sisters, where it ends in an in, but it's not plural. All right? What's this word here, brothers and sisters? Olamim. Olamim means forever or eternity. So what can we state, brothers and sisters? Right? Let me move the computer slightly, if I may. Okay. Cool. All right. Olamim means eternity. So we want to show another aspect, if we will, of the same case, where in, brothers and sisters, right, shows immense and not plural. Let us do this again. L, arrow, Elohim. Now, Olam, Olamim. What are we dealing with? We want to point out that this and this are arrows, like going from one to the next, if we will, okay? All right. So here we have, brothers and sisters, El and Elohim, Olam and Olamim. El, Elohim, Olam, Olamim. El meaning God, Elohim meaning God. Olam meaning forever or eternity, and Olamim meaning forever or eternity. You find Olam meaning forever in Genesis chapter 9, verse 12. You find Olamim meaning eternity in the book of Isaiah, chapter 26, verse 4. So, brothers and sisters, we want to show what we're talking about for reference and edification purposes. Okay? So, let us now go back to the printed out aspect. We're going to be reading in the Bible in Exodus chapter 20 and verse 1. And in the English, we see the following. And God spoke all these words, saying, here's what we see in Hebrew. Vaidaber Elohim et kal hadbarim ha'ele lemor. Vaidaber Elohim. Elohim yedaber. Not yedabru. This is not plural. And because the verb is treated, brothers and sisters, in the aspect of singular, so is Elohim, even though it ends with im, is not plural, because the verb and the noun and grammar in Hebrew must agree. So that's something, brothers and sisters, we want to point out for edification purposes. Okay? And this is something to be pointed out as well. It says, I am the Lord thy God, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The Hebrew, as we point out, would say, Anoki Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh Eloheka, Asher Hotzetika, Me Eret Mitzrayim, Me Beit Abadim. Abadim in a bondage. Lo Yihyeh Leka Elohim Akerim Al Panai. Now I want to emphasize Elohim Akerim. The Bible in the book of Psalms 82 says, I said ye are gods and all ye sons of the Most High. So in the Bible, in Exodus chapter 22, it says you shall not revile one of the judges or a ruler of your people. So Elohim, when treated in that manner, means judges, mighty ones, princes, those of authority, those who have power. Now, the only way the Israelites can refer to the immensity of the Most High, as we have already pointed out on this channel, in the book of 1 Kings, is when they were saying, Yahu ha-Elohim. We pointed that out already on this channel. It's the immensity that they're talking about of the Most High. So in Exodus chapter 20, when it says other gods, it is saying that they who have a certain position and power, you don't put that before the one who brought you up out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. That's what that's talking about in that particular case. Brothers and sisters, you cannot fit henotheism in the culture of the Israelites. Henotheism, the concept, correct me if I'm wrong, that says there's basically the council and the Most High stands before the other gods, and then the other gods do the work, and we need to acknowledge these other gods who do things. Such is not the case. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, it says, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Genesis 1:27 says, and Elohim created man in his image. So who will be the one or ones the Most High spoke to or of in Genesis 1:26? What is man made from? The earth. The only thing in Genesis 1 is the Most High and his creation. No other thing can take credit for making man and woman in one's image outside of Yah, the Most High. So when we read, brothers and sisters, in Genesis 1 verse 26, where it says, and God spoke on, pardon me, Genesis 1:26, where it says, and God said, let us make man. It is talking about the aspect of whom he was speaking to, which was what man was made from, its mother, Haaretz, the earth, Ha'adama, the ground. Thus you are, thus you shall return to. It's not really much more deeper than that. We are the people of the earth. The Most High made us from afar, Ha'adama, the dust of the earth. All right? So that's just something we want to go over and show for edification purposes, if we will. So now, brothers and sisters, if we look back, El, Elah, Eloha, Elohim, an appellation of the Most High. The brothers and sisters who say that it's Alahayam, but are also saying that Yam is the plural in Hebrew. Brothers and sisters, Eem is the plural in Hebrew for the masculine, and Ot is the plural in feminine. And we already shown how that's not always the case. That's why understanding is important. What we do know is the word Yam is not the pluralization of a word in Hebrew. Yam is the Hebrew word meaning sea. The Hebrew word for seas is Yamin. You see that in the book of Genesis as well. Now, this X, as we pointed out, stands for any letter in the Hebrew alphabet. This is not necessarily the ancient Hebrew tau. Plural masculine, kerik yod mem or im. Plural feminine, ot. Right? We pointed out that Beitzah means egg, like a chicken egg. And it has the kwamat followed by the hay. So it normally will be treated feminine, but yet its plural is masculine. So we wanted to show what they refer to as an irregularity once it comes down to that. All right? And going over this, you have Betulim, shown in Deuteronomy chapter 22. Betulim means virginity or tokens of virginity because it's the immensity of Betulah. Betulah means virgin. Betulot means virgins, young men and virgins, as it says in the book of Psalms chapter 136. All right? Alamim Ubtulot, young men and virgins. All right? So we just want to point that out for a reason and purposes. All right? The other thing, if we will, Abadim, all right? This is just a circle made for those who've been following, right? Abadim means bondage. It shows the immensity. Olamim, though it ends in im, doesn't make it always plural. Ends in im, doesn't always make it plural. That means eternity. It's immense. It's large. But it's still a it and not they. You understand? So we have here El in reference to the Most High, shown in Exodus. Well, shown in Exodus, but also shown in Genesis chapter 14 and Elohim in Exodus chapter 20. Still speaking of the same one. Olam, meaning forever. Olamim, meaning forever or eternity. Means the same thing, even though it ends in im, doesn't always make it plural. These are things we wanted to show for edification purposes. All right, we're going to conclude, but I want to show one more matter, if we will, right, concerning this kind of subject. We have Helim. Does it end with im? Yes, it does. We have another one. Ta'alim. Does it end with im? Yes, it does. Is it plural? Neither one of these are plural. Helim is a root in the verb, brothers and sisters, which means to hide. Ta'alim means you, masculine singular, will hide. That's not plural, but it ends with in. All right. Then we have, you want to show what the space allotted. All right. Ya'alim. Then you have Ya'alimu. Ya'alim, he will hide, or he will conceal. Ya'alimu, they will hide. That u shows it to be the plural. This im, ya'alim, it's not plural. That he is one person or one matter. So we just want to show, even with verbs, just because it ends with im, as we've shown with nouns, doesn't always make it plural. That's what we want to emphasize, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes. All right? By the way, you find Ya'alimu in the book of Leviticus chapter 20, and you find the word Ta'alim in the book of Psalms chapter 10. All right. As stated, it's not going to be long. We are going to conclude right now. Most High bless. Shalom. And for those who are interested, right, you can contact me at 908 587 4841. 908 587 4841. That's by text or by calling. All right. For those who do know, there are Hebrew books available. You can look them up. Hebrews Easy, Volume 1. Volume 2, Told Out to the Most High, has been redone and updated and is now available for those who are interested. For those interested in the books directly from me, I'm saying Told Out, thank the Most High. There's not one person who can say that they paid me for the books and they didn't get it. As stated, righteousness trumps knowledge. You're not going to take the money from the people and then go and disappearing. You don't do the ta'alim in that regard when people thinking of you in a high regard and want your material. All right. So 908 587 4841. Shalom. Most High bless.